When were the shuffleboard courts shut down?
And I can help you to
Yes.
clarify your question. You
Yeah.
mean when
When did
the
they
day
cease?
Labor Center
When did
went
that
out,
happen?
then it
No.
became available. Is that what you're talking about?
That's right.
Did they return to shuffleboard after the day labor
No.
center?
No.
They never
No.
did.
No, I think rec moved in there, recreation.
But I mean, the courts themselves, though, nobody continued to play
No, actually, they were
shuffleboard
driven, actually, essentially, the shuffleboard folks, the players were, in my opinion, driven off by indifference on the city's part and lack of embracing them, and because they'd had tournaments here for generations. It was a big deal, and they were essentially told, to go away.
Okay.
So,
The winter Boynton.
they're down white now. But I do have a couple follow-up questions before we get too much further with everybody else's,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No.
Point of clarification, the backup calls for $37,500. Is it actual cash you're looking for, or is it in kind? Because it says in kind on the first page, and if you look at the backup, it shows as a capital.
That's money, that's actual design services in the 2014 CIP. So that would be paid for by the city to do the design work. on
It's the same
facility.
$37,500, and it's coming out of capital improvement.
Yes,
That's correct.
right. The
But
same-
it's not really an in-kind contribution, it's a cash contribution, expenditure.
The match.
It's a match.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, what I'm saying, it says in kind. It's not, in kind to me is staff time, assets we already have in the books that we're giving or loaning or whatever. It's not a cash.
No, the in-kind was the roofing and as Jerry explained just a little while ago, was the in-kind was the other portion of it, correct?
But,
Which was the-
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And the cash will be used for the design of the project.
Let me read it, please, if you don't mind. It says, and to approve and authorize a contribution of $37,500 in-kind services.
Because they're the applicant for the grant, we're not giving them cash to do it, we're giving them the design. So
Okay.
it's just a term.
Then on the second page, under fiscal impact, it looks like you're using a $37,500
Yes.
expenditure out of the capital improvement plan.
That's correct.
So that is,
things don't match up, I agree.
I want to make sure I'm following up
In
here.
kind for the terms of the grant you're getting.
So we're paying for the services,
Yes.
Correct,
and those services are then in kind.
In-kind to the city.
correct,
But the
But it's
money is
real
coming
money.
from the capital improvement plan.
correct.
That's correct.
It's real money,
That's correct.
Not fake money.
not fake money. Okay.
So nobody's giving any money?
Okay.
Yes, they are.
So here's something that's been on my mind now for a number of weeks. I'm not really sure how to ask the question or even start the conversation, but I'll give it my best shot in the most sensitive way possible. It's easy, it has been easy, I think, for many of us over the years to get excited about concepts.
Quiet in the chambers, please.
And we get all riled up about, let's create more green space, or let's create more amenities, and we're gonna be an artsy-fartsy kind of community, and we're gonna be a hip community, we're gonna be all these things, okay? But we're specifically talking about the arts. Now, granted, those of you who know me, I'm probably not the most cultured individual, but my point is this: if we're going to talk about establishing an arts colony or enclave, or however you want to phrase it, I think if we haven't already had the conversation, we need to have the conversation about what does that mean? What type of arts are we speaking about? Who are these artists? How do you define, what that looks like, who the participants are, and start to come up with some sort of a vision of what the end result will look like. Because it's easy to talk about arts in a very abstract way. Oh, that's a form of art. But it's easy to talk about art like that. But my question is, how are we gonna start placing some sort of a measurement mechanism in place? How do we define and follow up and measure what we're doing, how it's being done, what's the expected result, and are we getting the expected result? Are we getting the return on investment? And that's the question I think we need to have. And I think we need to bring members of the arts community together.
Vice Chair, I want to address that if I could when you're done.
Well, then, want me to stop right now?
Sort
No,
of.
I'm just saying that I agree with everything that you're saying. I mean, first of all, I just came back from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which uses the arts and use it as a major catalyst to revitalize their downtown. There's cities like Winter Park on a smaller scale, Austin, Texas on a larger scale. This is not new or cutting edge. The arts have been used as a revitalizing tool in cities across the United States very effectively. And they have studies. In fact, some cities have spent $500,000 on studies just to show how they actually do impact and how they are a catalyst in the community. And they have examples, and in fact, I brought back some examples with me that I'm gonna be presenting to you to show how you can track it and how it is an important turning point, but you have to be committed to it. And in most of the cities where it's been successful, and this is where I think you were going with your conversation, is where they have, number one, philanthropic efforts, monies to back people to get involved. They have foundations, they form foundations and profit corporations like, the Cultural Council or other, they work hand in hand. They have nonprofit agencies that have spawned off of these community organizations that do nothing but have 3 to 6 staff members that do nothing but promote the arts in one capacity, say the visual arts, and then music, and whatever it may be. They have dedicated people who spend their free time, as well as volunteers, as well as staff positions, to support this. So when we talk about this, using the arts to revitalize our community, we have to look at what the long-term commitment is to do that, to provide a place for people to create in that's going to be viable, that's going to translate into economic development. And that's really, and there are studies that show, and I'll be able to, in fact, I got a great one from where I just was, that shows how the whole arts community changed and developed some of the worst hit areas in the city and the most depressed areas of the city and turned them into these trendy neighborhoods. I mean, we hear the stories, but it's not something fluffy and out there and hanging on a tree branch somewhere. It's real. The results are measurable. They have been measured, and there are hundreds, maybe even more, communities that have already been through this. In fact, the city of DeLand, today, I was just talking to a friend in the artist community. They're already implementing half the programs that I witnessed that Chattanooga was already talking about. They're already there. They've got sculptures up and down the streets. They've got artists roaming the streets. I mean, they're already using it, and they've transformed not only that, but the entire Stetson University campus and other things. It's already happened. We're behind the 8 ball on this one. We're not, I mean, here we are in this community where the arts grows organically within our city. We have the most organic arts community ever, and all the right environment for our artists to flourish. And we haven't even done half the stuff that these other communities smaller than us have done. We're behind. And this is a tool. We look for how are we going to do things with no money and with our current situation. We have a tool right here within our community and our people and our artists. And we're not giving them what they need to continue in many ways. And we don't have many resources to do that. And I know that, but that's a conversation that we need to have, to say how committed are we to doing it. Who is the arts person in the city that's going, if we're using this, if this is such a catalyst and a revitalization tool, who is that liaison to it? Who is that, who's committed to do, I know, but these are things we have to think about. If we can't do it now, it has to be part of the future plan if that's going to be what we use. Vice Mayor, I know you have sort of
So
follow.
I think we're essentially saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, you use the term organic. Well, you know what, we're not really in a strong position to allow nature to take its course. Okay, either we're gonna get serious about the arts and bring the resources to bear to make it happen, okay? And I'm talking about, inviting members of the arts community from all different levels of the arts community, the cultural, everybody we can get to the table and say, look, is this possible, is this plausible that we can turn Lake Worth into a real artsy kind of place? And if it's possible, then let's look at best practices. Let's lay out the roadmap. Let's lay it out there for everybody to see. Let's put a plan in motion. And instead of just talking about it going forward, we'll actually show some baby steps in doing it. And I guess my point was, in the context of this, here's another example. We're talking about the arts, and if we build it, somehow they're gonna come. Well, this isn't, I don't wanna build something just because we think that they're gonna come, okay? And that's where I'm at on this right now.
Well, the third option of that study, when I look at other cities, when I've done comparison studies, I'm sorry, it's in that same vein. The 3 things they had, I said philanthropic efforts, they had staff behind them to help in their support, but the third thing, and perhaps the most important, that all these communities had, was public buy-in. Meaning that the communities that they were involved in, the majority of the community, when they spoke, saw the arts as the catalyst, as a revitalizing tool that they could get their hands around and that they could support.